Revenge. Yeah, folks, it's revenge time. We're getting into the spirit of Coralie Fargeat, who's having a great 2024. So let's go back and see some previous work of hers. A director I'm not too familiar with, but Mubi, the savior of this channel sometimes, just giving us weird movies from directors I like, has this available. And coming off of the bad movie we had last week, that was excessive and gratuitous and a bunch of different ways than this one, I figured let's actually talk about a good exploitative movie. But gore and blood and destruction and a woman winning. I don't want to talk about Candy anymore. Let's go the opposite route. What if a woman killed a bunch of guys? Not just any guys, people complicit in her rape. And I think that's a cool movie idea. Fargeat's a good director. I feel like that's pretty obvious. You know how I feel about The Substance, and I'm pretty positive on this film. There's not much I am against on this film in terms of like the technical aspect of it. It does get a little too sloggish at times, and it does kind of like lose itself in like the middle half of how much more are we building up to like this big moment. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it wasn't. I will say though, this is a good little film. It's very quiet, very few cast members. 4 key cast members. Maybe there's like another group of people that show up like sporadically, just like over the phone or something. But it's about 4 people. You have our main woman, Jennifer, played by Matilda Lutz, who is going to be our Red Sonja. And that's really exciting. I've been waiting for that movie for a while. But here she is, just like a party girl who's dating this eccentric rich guy who is married. And she's the secretive girlfriend. They go away to the desert just to party and drink and sleep with each other. And take peyote maybe. That'll come back later. Beautiful location. The colors are so vibrant. I really like the way they look here. A lot of good blues, a lot of good oranges. And you contrast that with like the weird tinted pink and blue windows. Looks really good. But as these people are just partying and having a good time, a couple of the guy's buddies show up. His name is Richard. He's got 2 friends. And they're just a couple of characters. Well, Columby wants to have a little fun with Jennifer. She doesn't want that. He thinks she does because they're dancing one night and partying, and then the next day she rejects his advances. And he goes, I thought you wanted it the other day. What changed? Leading to, look, there's a sexual assault in this movie. We don't see it much. It's more like an audio thing we hear, an auditory experience of watching somebody like turn up the volume on a TV to like drown out what we're hearing. And then from there, it's just a mess of a movie. And you think maybe Richard is going to help her get out of the situation, but he's more pissed that these guys now made like a loose end for him to have to clean up because this is something his wife could find out about. It's a movie about men being terrible, and you gotta commend it for that. It completely just says, don't like these guys. They're not worth it. They're not fun. Don't trust them. Don't support them. They're terrible. I commend it for that because they want to blackmail her. She's like, I'll blackmail you. They're like, no, you're not. You're like a weak, defenseless girl. We're going to lead you out into the desert and push you off a cliff where you're going to die because you get impaled on the only bark and branch that is there. You think she's going to die. That's the premise of this movie. Like, oh, was she kind of like reborn as like a killer to kill them? No, it's not as like spiritual or like, metatextual as that. It's just more perseverance allows her to survive falling off the cliff and being like stabbed in the stomach. Not stabbed, pierced in the stomach. It goes right through her. And she's going to go get revenge. And from there, it becomes a tale as old as time as a vengeful woman seeks out to kill the people who sexually assaulted her. And it looks good. Tension is strong. You'll love to see it. It does get very gory and graphic, but that's the point we're going for here. I commend this movie for not holding back from the obvious. Subtlety is not a thing that Coralie Fargeat goes for in terms of her films. If you've seen them, you know what I mean. She is just like, we're going to kill these men. We're going to get Dimitri first. He's the big, slow guy, so we're going to crawl out of this way. We're going to find him and then stab his eyes out with a knife. We kind of know how to use a gun, not really well, but we're still going to kill him and drown him at the same time. Very powerful moment because he was bearing witness to the crime. Now, I don't want to think there's like some, well, maybe there is like, a metaphorical reason for stabbing his eyes in terms of like what Carly was thinking, but it's a cool way to kill a guy and it worked. And he drowned and he died, but she is still bleeding out and getting pretty like messed up from that. So in order to heal herself, she has to find a way to close up the hole that she has in her stomach and her chest and kind of just take a moment to breathe. So we get a really cool sequence that's kind of like the most spiritual part, where she takes a bunch of peyote and she like burns a can of beans onto her stomach just so it like heals her up a bit, and like literally leaves like a burn mark in like the shape of the mascot of the company. It's pretty sick. Like, it is terrifying and graphic, but it looks pretty sick. Like, I commended them for, I keep saying I commended them, like, this is freaking sick. As much as I do have problems with some of the pacing in this movie, it is pretty sick when like a woman just like finds a gun, loads it up a way she knows how. Someone who's never fired a gun before. And it's like, all right, time to go hunt the man that raped me. And that takes us to a really cool sequence where we have like a car chase, and I guess it's more like a van kind of quad chase, whatever you want to say. And it's her in the mountains or like the hills of this place chasing Columbi, and he is just losing his mind. He's like, we should have just killed her. You should have like double checked. You shouldn't have brought her here. We shouldn't have had any of this happen. Literally blaming everyone else for the actions that he did, opposed to just saying that I did this thing and I led to this moment. So they get a really cool standoff, and she's like following him through a scope and shoots part of his arm, and it's just a really good moment. And he clips off part of her ear, and it's just like a really cool like intensity, people going back and forth, being violent towards each other. And it just leads to like hitting him with the truck and then running him down and then just killing him in some very brutal ways, And it works. Like, that is what we are here for. We want to see some beautiful cinematography while a woman covered in blood and sweat and just dirt and anger kills her rapist. And like, that is really fun when it's presented in this way. It is both being like, hell yeah, watch her get vengeance, but like, look how graphic we can make some sequences. Let's watch as he cuts himself on open glass and he has to like rip the shard out of his foot in like intense detail, which is another like the body horror thing Fargeat is going to like do later in other movies that just really works for like the tone of this piece. It's very impressive. And she eventually just kills him, and then he like drives the truck off the side of the mountain, and you're like, yep, this is what you want. We don't want any justice for these people. Let's kill them. And that leads us to going to get Richard, her boyfriend, the person that she likes. And he eventually makes it back to the house. And then she gets back to the house, and it's a very, very intense sequence of a lot of continuous tracking shots following both of them moving through the house, trying to see where the other person is. It's very impressive. I like it a lot. Like, it looks so good. And it gets into like a really intense like part of suspension where they're both following each other around like the same corridor. So we go through like the same corridor like 4 or 5 times of them stalking each other in different locations. The entire time, by the way, I should point out that Richard is completely naked. And I guess we should kind of talk about like what Jennifer is wearing, because she's not wearing clothes, but it's not presented as like gratuitous or sexual. She is just, I have nothing left. I'm literally ripped and stripped of everything I had. All I have left is like a gun and some pockets with bullets in it and the underwear I was wearing, and I'm going to kill these guys. So it's just 2 people at their bare limit, one of them completely naked, just fighting in a bloody hallway, dripping out of blood. There's blood pouring everywhere, people just screaming at each other, freaking out. It's very intense. It's very suspenseful. And surprisingly, it works. Like, I think for as much as like we have her stalking them for so long, this is the type of stalking that I prefer, where it's just built on the suspense. It's not like looking through the scope. At any moment, one of them could turn around the corner and find the other one, and that just feels so real and scary, and you just love it, because it's so much of her just like she's losing blood, he's losing blood. She doesn't know how to hold the gun properly. He's here to kill, she's here to kill. It's 2 people just ready to kill each other, for lack of a better term, and do something intense and scary. And eventually it leads to him getting killed, which it should. That's the point. He was supposed to be the protective boyfriend, but he did nothing to help her, and just like, well, why'd you go and rape her? Now we have a problem. Not like pissed off at the guy. It's just like, you can't believe you did this. He deserved to die. They all deserve to die. The helicopter's coming up to pick her up. It's really cool. She just like walks on the edge of the swimming pool, covered in blood and wearing nothing, and it's just like, well, I got my revenge. Who cares what happens next? These guys are dead. This place sucks. Everything's bad. This is brutal, but they're dead, and that's good. I can't hate it for that. In fact, I think it's pretty sick. I like seeing that kind of stuff. I'm not big into like the revenge thriller, genre. It has never appealed to me on like a mass scale. But this is the type of thing I do like to see. I like to see vengeance being had. I like to see some good use of like gun and location stuff. It's very clear who's in what location. And I think that's a really impressive thing to have for like a director with only 4 key cast members. It works really well. And it looks great. A beautiful movie. I don't know what kind of camera we're using. It's like the kind of digital lens that you see in like a lower production of stuff. Stuff that's built for streaming. But I'm a fan. I do like what we're doing here. And I think if you just want to throw something on, not think about stuff, but you want to see women getting a W, there's worse interpretations of this genre. This is a pretty good one. It ain't perfect, but it looks good. And it's very competent. And sometimes that's all you can do and all you want. So I commend it for that. And that is going to do it for this rendition of Dynamic Tales. Thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.